In this example, it's asking us to create a frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency table for the values given. And these values represent the total number of years of formal education for 40 employees of a bank, ranging from 11 to 19. So we start with frequency. And for frequency, we go through and we count up the number of times that those values show up in the data. For instance, 11 only shows up once, but 12 shows up 3 times, so the frequency is 3. And if we go through and count up the number of 13s, we'll find that there are 11 of those. And if we go through and count up the number of 14s, we'll find that there are 5 of those. There are 4 15s, 3 16s, 8 17s, 2 18s, and 3 19s, which should total up to the total that they told us of 40. And so it's a good way of double checking that we've counted correctly by adding them all up here. Now for relative frequency, we take the frequency and divide it by the total. So for the relative frequency of 11, we take its frequency of 1 and divide it by 40. As a decimal, that's 0.025, or that would be 2.5%. For 3, we do 3 divided by 40, which as a decimal is 0.075, or 7.5%. We just go through and do this for every frequency divided by 40, and write the decimal for those. The total should come out to be equal to 1 or 100%, unless we've rounded, in which case it could be slightly different. Here I didn't round any at all in my decimals when I divided by 40, and so everything came out to add up to 100%. Now cumulative frequencies are adding the frequencies together one at a time. So starting with the very first frequency of 1, then we add the next frequency to that, 1 plus 3, to get 4. And then we add the next frequency on top of that, so we add the 11 with the last number. 11 and 4 add up to 15. So it just keeps going like this, where we add the next frequency to the number we got before. So the next one would be plus 5, so it add up to 20. And if I just go through here and do this for each frequency, I add the frequency to the last number, now plus 4, to get 24. And here at the very end, I'm going to add the last frequency, and that would come out to be the total of 40. All the frequencies added up together. What we're going to do with these frequencies is we're going to create a bar graph. On the vertical scale, we're going to make that the frequency. And down here on the horizontal axis, we're going to have the years listed from 11 to 19. We start with the frequency for 11, which was 1. So the bar in the bar graph for 11 goes up to 1. For 12, we had a frequency of 3. So we're going to draw a bar going up to 3. For 13, we had a frequency of 11, so our bar is going to go all the way up to 11. For 14, we had a frequency of 5, so our bar is going to go up to 5. For 15, we had a frequency of 4, so our bar is going to go up to 4. For 16, we had a frequency of 3, so our bar is going to go up to 3. For 17, we had a frequency of 8, so we're going to have our bar go all the way up to 8. And then for 18, we had a frequency of 2, and then the last one for 19, we had a frequency of 3. And so there's just a quick bar graph for our frequency table. This next one says we're given some categories for different kinds of vehicles, and we're going to create a Pareto chart from this data. So the sales of each type of vehicle, and how we create a Pareto chart is we list them from greatest to smallest. So here I've laid out the different categories, starting with the very largest one on the list, which is family. And we're going to create the bar graph from that. So I've laid out the sales on the vertical scale from 5 to 30. increments of 5. So if I go up to somewhere just short of 30, which would be at 28, then that would be where we'll draw up the bar for family category here. And then if we do the truck says 24, so we're just going to be just shy of 25 on our scale. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect, we're just doing this by hand. And then for economy, we had 16, so just a little bit above 15. That's the next category. And then for luxury, we have 8, which will be a little under 10 here. And then finally for sport, we only have 4, so that's going to be very short here. And there we go. That'll be a Pareto chart, again, ordering it from biggest to smallest. Here we're looking at a particular situation where they want us to create a pie chart from the different data that they have here. These are movie ratings for 900 movie critics, and they give us the frequency and the relative frequency. And again, the relative frequency can be thought of as percentages, where 0.20 would be 20%, 0.50 would be 50%, and 0.30 would be 30%. And this pie chart over here is set up in a way so that each slice in the pie is 10%. So we have 10 of those slices at 10% each. And so it makes it easy enough for us to show what we're doing here. For 20%, we just need to highlight or shade in 2 of those slices for 20%. And that would be for that particular category. And then for 30%, we need 3 slices. So we'll shade in or color or however we'd like to do that for 30%. And then for 50%, which is just half of the entire thing, that'll be for that category. On this one, it's giving us a bar graph, a double bar graph, and ask a few questions about it. For instance, it says, in what quarter was the revenue greatest for 1999? Well, notice how we've got the revenue, which is listed on the vertical axis up and down, and then down here at the bottom are the colors that are used for the different bars. The first bar with the darker color is 1999, and the lighter colored one is for 2000. So we just basically need to look for which one was the highest for 1999. We'll see that one over here in quarter 4. Here at the very end, that's the biggest bar for 1999. And then it says, in what quarter was the revenue least for 2000? So we're going to be looking at the lighter colored bar here. And that's going to be over here in the second quarter, where the bar is smallest for the year 2000. And then the next one says, what was the revenue for the first quarter of 1999? Notice how both years here have the same value here. For 1999, the darker colored bar, that's up here at 35. So the answer to that one would be 35, and this is counted in millions according to what it says. So the revenue would be 35 million.